Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. I'm your host, Crisis with a K, and I'm here with my friends from around the world from me, Fariha and Tyler. And we are big X-Men fans, and we get together every week to cover every X-Men book. And up today is Excalibur number 19, released on the 24th of March, 2021. So this comes with our standard spoiler warning. We are going to spoil this issue by discussing it, but we're also going to be spoiling the past few issues by discussing this issue, and probably a lot of historical X-Men and Marvel Universe stuff. So you have to know that this is a full spoilers discussion and know that that's what you're signing up for right now. For Excalibur number 19, as we always do, we will begin with our lightning round of reactions before we dig more deeply into the thematic and plot elements of this book. So Tyler, what was your reaction to Excalibur number 19?
I mean, there were a couple of skips in the stories and then leaps of logic that got amplified when this story is actually spaced out across 4 months. So I feel like if all 4 post X of Swords Excalibur issues were like read together as one arc, it would read, maybe quite differently. That said, even the good art by Toe did not quite lift this issue from being just mediocre. So I give it a 3 hangry druid out of 5.
Fariha.
So we talked about last time that just like period, Excalibur is something that happens to me at least for me once a month. For you guys, it just happens a month. For me, it's like one of those things, 2 constant, Excalibur and periods. And I have been thinking since X of Swords why this series exists. What are we trying to learn from it? What are we doing with it? Because the whole point was getting Betsy back, the 616 Betsy back. And finally it happened. So I really like that part. I also like the part that all the things with Psylocke, Quanon, and Betsy and everything that I only know from being here, like you guys talking about it and telling me about this. And I kind of liked that there was, for the first time, I felt like, because there was so many X-Men stories where the women are going against each other or the women are pitted against each other because of the action of men. Like, it just feels like that. And then now I feel like finally these 2 women kind of, like, at least Quanon just decided to help her out. And there was like a good moment by that. And I really enjoyed that. But did we need it all 4 issue to get here? Nah. So I don't know where that leaves me. So on an issue level, I really liked it. But when you put it on the overall,
Well, we're definitely going to get into that idea of how this resolves each of the cliffhangers of each of the prior 3 issues. So I don't want to get too much into that in my reaction. I think this was a bad comic book because I think that Tini Howard has built up this really interesting plot about Rachel, about the Captain Britain Corps and what they represent and how they may or may not have changed, about Otherworld, about them reinstalling Saturnine in Otherworld. And it all feels like it comes to partially a crux here, and it's just a drop ball. I mean, it's just a plot that goes nowhere. Like, plants need to be scared, so we shatter a lantern. I mean, we're going to get into all of this stuff, but it just feels like there was so much room in this issue to take all 3 of those cliffhangers and just do something more meaningful, more portentous, more symbolic. And instead, it's just confused. Like, it really, to me, felt like it needed a plot assist. And I don't think that takes away from any of the feelings that anybody's having about it. I think the resolve that it gives to Quanon and Betsy, I think, is still a positive thing. But I think purely on an execution of the story on the page level, that this issue is just like a full-on failure for me. So with that in the air, now we're going to talk. Oh, Tyler.
Before we go into the issue itself, I just want to say that I really love the Asra cover for this issue. The colors and the 2 characters, even though Quanon doesn't look quite Asian, but I just love this, the way it's being framed and how the yellow and the purplish, almost pink color there.
Yeah, it's very striking. I mean, we all know that I'm easy to please with pink on a cover. Yeah. If only that level of
Yeah,
interesting
that's why
conflict
I
was
wore
reflected
pink
in the
today.
issue. So I'm wearing purple today because of Silik and Betsy. So let's talk about how this continues from the last 3 issues, because each of the last 3 issues, we came back after them and we're like, what happened with that? And this does finally tie all 3 of them together. So 3 issues ago, hold on, I've got them all lined up here on my computer so I can actually refer to them one by one. So in issue number 16, it's right after X of Swords. They're like, where's Betsy? Where's Betsy? It ends with the ritual in the other world with the Captain Britons where they're like, well, we didn't mean to summon you, but can you help us? And then it kind of felt like that was a drop plot beat. Then in issue number 17, it was the issue where we see what Betsy's experiencing as she takes the place of the Queen of England, Betsy. And that was really interesting. And we really liked that one. And at the end, she goes through the portal and it lets us think that maybe she's just bopping right back into her own body. But there's something else going on there and we don't really understand. And then there is issue 18, which has them with this body who's also kind of hustling around and doing stuff. And it turns out that this is the body that Jamie made and that Quanon KO'd because it was inhabited, as we find out at the end of this issue, by Malice.
So here's the question. I only know Malice from Black Panther. No, I only know Malice from Black Panther. Like Nakia character, she becomes Malice. That's her code.
Is that, I don't remember if it's the same Malice or not.
No, it's not.
No,
it's
this Malice has no body.
Yeah, this is mutant Malice. She's just a disembodied mean girl.
Yeah. She basically take over the body of like the first person I think she ever took over was is that Polaris?
I mean, she's
the
in,
longest.
She's in Dazzler for a while. She's in Polaris for a while.
No, she was in Polaris for a long time because Sinister purposely put them together.
Yeah.
Because Polaris powers disrupt her so that she can't really leave. So there was this whole long stretch of Uncanny X-Men reference here and there where Polaris was inhabited by Malice.
Another example of X-women having to fight each other because of action of men. I just presented that over there. But okay, so this is not, because I only know Malice from Black Panther.
Right.
Like that's like, so this is not, I mean, yeah, okay, gotcha. Carry on.
So part of me did think it was clever because, we talk a lot about how people demand instant satisfaction in modern comics, us included. And here we were for 3 issues running demanding satisfaction. Whereas if you read, especially that original era where Malice is bouncing around the 210s of Uncanny X-Men, Claremont is not rewarding anything in an issue. Like he's doing these little 1 and 2 issue stories and it takes a while for them to all get tied together. And to Howard's credit, I do think she kind of did this here. She baited and switched just a little bit. She made it feel like there were these 3 one-shots. I think it was cool that they all stood alone and you didn't really need to have read the prior issue. And then this issue is resolving all 3 of those issues. And I think that's clever. And so before I get into the structural problems of this issue itself, that at least I observed, I have to say, credit where it's due, I like it, and maybe we could have been a little bit more patient. I don't know. What are your reactions to that? Did you feel like this rewarded you enough to make up for our feelings of dissatisfaction the last 2 times we came back to Excalibur?
I mean, I like it. I don't think this is a great issue by any means. I mean, I certainly liked the fact that like Howard did not like forget about those things, or it didn't. Or certain things happens off panel and just like, 1 word balloon mention and we are done with it. We actually spent some time to see how the Captain Britain Corps tried to get Betsy 616 back. And then, I mean, we did spend some time. The problem, as you implied in, I think, past maybe several episodes of Excalibur, is that Excalibur here, this particular group as Excalibur is not magical in any way. So it feels very, I mean, it is really what do you call, you're trying to force a cylindrical into a square hole or something, and it doesn't fit very well. Or maybe the other way. A cube, you're trying to fit a cube into a hole that is smaller. So I mean, but what I really like is like the little bit of like callback. For example, Earth 13059 is the fantasy one with the evil savior, that first appeared in Extreme X-Men.
Oh, I did
And
not
I like
catch that.
Extreme
And I
X-
love Extreme X-Men.
Yeah, I love Extreme X-Men, and I think that was the arc where Hercules and Howard was shown to kiss on panel after they slain the dragon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fariha, do not miss Extreme X-Men in your read. It starts...
I'm writing down.
Okay, yeah.
The second Extreme X-Men. The first Extreme X-Men is by Claremont.
Yeah, it's by
the
Greg
second
Pak.
Extreme X-Men is by Greg Pak. So we are talking about the second one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Important
I also
notes.
like the callback that Howard is using. Like, I have not seen the focus totality, that two words to describe Betsy's power for a long time. Like for a while, Claremont has always used this whenever Psylocke manifests her psychic knife. He would say like,
okay.
oh, this is
That is the focus
totality.
Yeah.
So, and it's being used here like slightly differently on Earth 13059 Psylocke. So I love the little bit of callback here and there.
So as much as I loved the character, like ladies help each other out at the end and all of that, even though at the beginning we see the ladies not helping each other out, I was a little, one of my complaint was though, is like the Betsy that we see at the end, that's Quanon is like, come back, and it's like, no, I don't want to go. But we saw that one issue where she was trying to come back. Like, she had that, she was in England, she got she got into that other world, and then Angel got the Warren got all
the Queen Elizabeth III.
Yeah, like all of that. So why she's having this back, having this, no, I don't want to come back, or what happened there? So that I was like, okay, I don't know where that come from.
Yeah, and that was, we can get into the whole sequence of it, but that was one of my big problems with it, is like it felt fabricated. Like it felt like we just needed this conflict for Quanon to overcome to get her back, because comics need conflict. So let's have this conflict where she's like, no, I won't go back to my body. And then let's have Quanon, who I think there's one fair beat here, which is that Quanon and Psylocke didn't ask to be put into that situation. And Psylocke's Betsy as Psylocke certainly has benefited from it many times over in a way that has harmed Quanon, but there was not necessarily ill intent at the beginning of it. And so I think that it's fair for them to be like, look, at a point, neither of us were at fault. But at the same time, to end this whole reckoning with Quanon, the woman who had her body stolen and appropriated, having to invite Betsy into her psyche to bring her back to her body. Like, I know it's supposed to feel redemptive, but it rubbed me real strange. It just struck me as really weird, especially as combined with this weird beat of Betsy not wanting to go back. It almost felt like it would have worked better if Betsy's like, I really want to go back, but I can't figure out how to get through. And Quanon would have said, you can come in this one time, but only because I'm inviting you. That would have made so much more sense. I don't know. Am I just being Peter? Am I being a weird stickler, or was something missing?
No.
Well, no, I was just gonna say though, it's like, because maybe I don't know any of their history and stuff, so I didn't actually see it this way. But what you just said is like, I wish there was like, I want to come back, but I can't. Because of something is holding me back, and it could be that Cetardine has put something out there that is stopping her. I thought that would have been more interesting versus, I don't want to go. Why? Two issues ago, you wanted to.
I feel like they tried to do it for a second with the whole, I failed. And Quanon's like, oh no, you didn't fail. The core back together, whatever. But that didn't even make sense.
Because she knows that.
No. After this, I went back to look at those issues, and it did happen. She had a vision, like she mentioned here. There was one page where she saw the different Betsy as Captain Britain, and that's all. Like, throughout the whole issue, I think 17, when she was in the Queen Elizabeth III body, Angel and that version of Quanon did not tell her that.
Right, they very deliberately don't tell her what's happening, because that's part of the rules.
Yeah, so they did not tell her that she's Captain Britain. She did not know that all the Betsy's in multiverse have become the Captain Britain core. So that part tracks. But I agree, she was trying to get back to her body at the end of 17. So why the
Right.
sudden change of mind here
Yeah.
when when she was captured by, I mean, when her psychic was like, captured by all the different Captain Britons. Like, I mean, at that point, wouldn't she know that the Captain Britain core has been reformed?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, and these are just,
I think
this is what I mean. It's not like, it wasn't like it was just a terrible issue and every word balloon was bad and it's just that so many things didn't quite match up that it made it impossible for me to just like enjoy a read. But let's pause the Betsy dialogue for a second
Okay.
to talk about the only other thing that really happens in this issue, which is Richter being terrible at magic.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, any introduction I give it is just going to sound like I'm beating up on the issue because yeah. But Richter, talk about it. We all know Richter pretty well. We've all read runs with Richter in them.
Yeah.
Does this work for you?
Richter has never been associated with magic ever.
Yeah.
And this is me saying that. Like, that's not his thing. He's never been that. So why is he being forced into this? There's other magical creature in Krakoa.
And also, like, within this cast, isn't like Gloriana the better choice to try and do something? Because she's magical and she's a mutant. So if we're talking about mutant magic, she would be a good fit. And who trained under the Sorcerer Supreme? Magic.
Yeah,
exactly.
magic.
So there's a little bit of I mean, there's something really off here with Richter, and I feel like it's because the relationship between Apocalypse and Richter were not given any sort of like on panel mention, or we have not been shown that Apocalypse actually took Richter under the wing and taught him something. We saw that the druids that lives like right in the grounds in the forest around the lighthouse sort of like say that, okay, you are one of us, and wouldn't it kind of make sense to reach out to them too, because they are druids, so, and you are kind of like just becoming one. So I don't know.
So to give Howard benefit of doubt, I feel like she was settled with this character, and then it's like, okay, what else I can do other than make him incompetent in magic and make him learn magic and stuff like that. So I don't know whether it feels like, because I don't know what went on in the X office, like how the teams were being formed, with the initial, because this is one of the original series. So I feel like it's like, oh, you get Richter because we need to do something with Richter. It's like, okay, this is.
I gotta sharpen the knives a little bit here because I got some feelings about this now that I know that I'm not alone in finding that this is
Tell us your feelings.
So Richter.
No, this is.
Sing us your feelings.
So look, Richter's originally introduced in early X Factor by Louise Simonson, and he's a captive of the Right, who it turns out are agents of Cameron Hodge, and he's being used to kind of like punish his town, and they're using his powers against the town. And there's this really, really strong beat that's ongoing in his early issues of like the torture of him and the appropriation of him and his powers was so bad that he'll do anything to get away from it. If he has to kill somebody, he'll kill somebody. If he has to kill himself, he'll kill himself, but he's never going to be used like that again. So this character is absolutely rooted in that. Now, whether or not you want to say that's a positive or a negative to, take this person, this non-white character, and say, that his whole character is framed in being used as a weapon against his own community and that he's potentially suicidal, I'm not passing a value judgment on that, nor am I saying that it always has to be his plot beat. I'm just saying, let's reflect on where he began. Then, of course, Richter's other big plot beat is that he comes out as a gay man, and he has a long-standing relationship, and that even though that had been teased for years in X-Force, it actually happens in Peter David's X Factor, right? So that's who we've got. So here's this Richter, and we do get his depression and his inability, and also he moves crap. He's connected to the earth, right? So we get that at the beginning of Excalibur with how depressed he is and he won't leave his house and he's afraid to touch the earth, and that tracks. but then nothing else about how he's been used connects to his old character at all. It's almost like we were supposed to just start thinking of him as this totally new person there. And it's like, well, now he's into magic or whatever. And even after Excalibur 12, where his magic is fundamentally shown to be connected to the earth and his ability to use the earth and manipulate the earth and travel through the earth, Howard has like dropped that plot beat entirely. And here we get him saying, I starved myself to do this. Starve yourself to do what? Bring Betsy back to her body? We're so many degrees separated from who he is, what his powers are, and what his journey is now, that he's just become this tool to get to do this Betsy plot with. Rant over. Am I like way off? I don't know.
No,
I mean, my first introduction to Richter was when he lost his power, and he lost his
and he's gonna kill himself again.
Jumping. Yeah, he's trying to jump from the building, and Jamie's like, dude, please don't do this. Like, come work for us. Don't do this.
But does this feel like your Richter that you know?
I don't know, because that's one of the problem with Richter was in X Factor, that he could never figure out who he is. And he could never figure out, because he lost his power, and then he's like, he lost his entire identity. And then he wasn't like, oh, what I'm going to do, because I only knew myself as mutant. And then Jamie kind of tried to trigger him, constantly bringing, oh, you mean like Shatterstar? Just dropping his name left, right, and center. And he's going, poo. And then there's this whole thing with Rain that he had, he was trying to, which I guess a lot of queer people go through that. It's like, maybe I'm straight, maybe I should try this. And as if Rain doesn't have enough on her own to deal with. And then there was that. And then Shatterstar came back. When Shatterstar came back, his whole thing was, oh my God, just grab him and kiss him. Because he finally realized, I'm going to be out, I'm going to be proud, and this is who I am. And that's where we left him in X Factor. And I didn't read him anything after that. And then when we first come here, he's depressed again. He forgot about Shatterstar. He's and now he's a magical vessel. So he's probably trying to find another identity of himself.
I guess that's fair. It's very consistent that Richter's always looking for some external thing that he can make internal to define himself with. But it just feels like I just wish more of that would get connected. Connect this to him feeling like, I'm using this to solve my need to be useful. Connect this to his identity. It just feels like really separate to me right now. Tyler, I don't know. What how do you feel about that?
I mean, before we started recording, X of Swords, I remember that when I was writing my review for Excalibur, I said that Richter is I said something along the line that I don't like characters being used for plot convenience. So we had, I think, before X of Swords, 2 scenes of Richter just basically stumbling upon something. He's like, oh, I can't sleep at night, so I start walking in the garden, and then I saw this thing, and then exposition happens. I was like, I'm not a fan of that, because that means it doesn't work, because you don't know how to place this story beat into your plot. And then you just came out with an idea that, oh, Richter can sleep, so he woke up in the middle of the night and he started walking in the garden, and then he stumbled upon this ritual, and then the ritual, the druid tells him everything. I was like,
isn't that what Claremont does in every issue?
No.
Well, tune into our Epic X-Men reread for the end of that debate. So look, there's our Richter chat. If you're a big Richter fan who's watching or listening, I'm definitely interested in your opinion. I know there's people out there who's much higher on their list even than mine, but I feel like I've been reading him for decades now, and it just really frustrates me. And I think for what the reason Tyler said, it just feels like he's here as this plot contrivance, and it doesn't even feel like Richter to me. But speaking of plot contrivances,
before we move on from Richter one, do you think that Richter would have been better as Black Tom is in X-Force? As much as we love tickled Black Tom, but the thing is because his power is all about Earth and connecting, and then so from that point of view,
maybe we just need more of that in the magic. Get off this spellbook nonsense. How many data pages do I freaking need that are pages from this stupid spellbook? Have Richter be like, I know the spellbook says this, but something feels wrong to me. And let's see him with his hand on the earth and be like, Rogue, go over there. That to me would read
Mhm.
so much more effectively than this constant grimoire nonsense. I'm getting to like my Hickman rage point every time the grimoire comes back. Like I'm
Because
getting hulky.
no, because and to be fair, Howard was doing that, right? Because remember, he was trying to do something on the ground
Yes.
in Krakoa and
And
that
I
kind
was
of thing.
starting to care.
Yeah. So
But then that got lost dropped.
well, and then he went to Apocalypse Lab and he's like, oh, now I got a book. So now I know I'm going to use that book.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be hangry.
Yeah.
I'm so hungry. I fasted and
I'm
nothing
starving
worked.
myself to bring Betsy, a character I have no relationship, back.
And-
So look, speaking of plot contrivance, I'm sorry, listeners. This is sometimes you just get this version. So let's just try to track the Betsy journey here. We've talked about it a little bit, but so Betsy is popping through realities. The Captain Britons contain her. They have her in hand. They bring her to Saturnine. Saturnine's like, F that noise. I don't even like this Captain Britain. And the Captain Britons are like, but if you just let her walk through the normal otherworld dimensional portal to Earth, she will just reconstitute because we have her true soul. And Saturnine's like, talk to the hand. So then they bring the lantern back through a gate, because I guess many of them are mutants and they can, and they give it to the Excalibur team. But since it didn't go through the otherworld gate, she doesn't just get her body back, which is fine because they have the body that Malice was in. So they're trying to do a ritual, but Richter can't get it right. Or is it that Betsy doesn't want to go back in? And so Quanon knows something about raising plants. And so she says house plants are not scared enough to grow if it's not windy. So she shatters the lantern. So Betsy goes back through the gate into Otherworld, where Quanon has to chase her, but won't take anybody else with her because she's connected to Betsy. Fair enough. She goes into this Fey village in the Otherworld and goes down a well that Quanon has to also go down. It's threatening the whole village, but then the well turns into a metaphor for her psyche, where then they have it out with the whole thing that we've covered already, where Silik doesn't want to, or Betsy doesn't want to come back. And then Quanon has to put her in her brain by force to carry her back. And once they get her, Heimlich, the Malice, choke her out of her, she is back in her body and everything's fine. Here's my question. Did we need all of those steps? Did we have to throw Timmy down the well? Like, it just feels like there was maybe one too many steps in this progression that I had to actually outline it. I don't know. Me, again, just me.
I mean, it is a very long sequence to get back. To be fair, I kind of I appreciate the fact that Betsy and Quanon didn't just simply got into a fight, or a mutual guilt trip of like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't, I inhabited your body, I took up so much of your life, that kind of thing. I mean, I kind of like that they didn't do that, and I kind of like that they came to a reconciliation that says, hey, shit happens to us, and was done what was done to us, so we both need to get past it, and let's try to get past it by please going back to your body first.
Fariha, bring us home here.
I mean, Tyler and I, we're also connected because we shared bodies once. Maybe that's why he could actually took everything I was thinking and then said it. Because that's the only thing I liked about this, because at least and no one called each other the B word or the W word or any name calling. There was no name calling done. And two ladies said, look, we kind of gotten into a situation that we were not interested, not involved in and didn't want in. And now let's put it back together. However, is this the way I wanted Betsy to be found? No. I wanted a multi-reality travel ways, like the team goes and tries to find their musical body, and then they're always a little bit late, because I thought that's what it was when we first post X of Swords, right? Yeah. I thought that's where it was going. It didn't happen. We got this. I mean, okay. Sure.
Well, and I think we can end the discussion there on one positive note. Even if you don't love all the execution, even if there are definitely some other issues here that we didn't even get a chance to dig into, such as some issues around colonialization, which people are finally starting to write about, which I'm really happy to see because I'm not necessarily the right voice for that. I think hopefully as X-Men fans, we can agree, hey, at least maybe we have a decent resolve to this Betsy and Quanon thing, and they can just go on being their characters without this hanging over them, this sort of Damocles of like, ooh, are we going to get another confrontation between Betsy and Quanon? Because to Freya's point, like, do we need the woman to fight again and again and again? Why can't they just say the things that Freya said? So if I can take a positive away from this, it's like, great, let's move on to something new, which is tracking down Malice. It's an interesting beat. She can be in anybody's body. It's kind of like another Shadow King beat. It really brings together this idea that there's a couple of specific problems plaguing the island right now. It's these, people going around and doing psychic influences, how clones are going to be treated, what happens when, this is all spread across X-Force, it's spread across this, it's spread across Sword, it's spread across X-Factor, and it really feels like maybe the gala might bring some of it to a head.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the Malice thing is Sinister trying to get back to Jamie.
You think, for smelling up his cape?
I think he's like, I'm going to make a clone, but I'm going to mess it up for you by putting Malice into it.
So you think he planted Malice in the body?
That's what I think.
See, we ended with a good theory here. I'm into that.
But because I'm into that too from the story point of view. But Sinister should really stop messing with the ex-ladies. Like that's his entire character beats. I absolutely hate that.
Because Malice is one of the Marauders. So, and we all know that Sinister has like a farm of like Marauders, even though Howlers destroy his orphanage. But I'm sure he has it somewhere. So I think he's just trying to get back at Jamie by saying, "Oh, you want a clone of your sister? Sure, let's create a house and then plant it there."
So how did he convince Malice to get in there?
He didn't. He basically forced the choker into the husk. I think Malice. Okay, at this point, I think we do not know where Malice is, but I think Malice has always appears with the choker, right? So
it's usually the sign that she's possessed somebody, like almost like it's a cursed object, but it's in a way also kind of the manifestation of her power, that it like physically manifests on somebody once she takes them over.
Oh, thank God it's a choker, not an underwear. That would have been awkward. But anyway. Sorry.
So look, I try to always maintain a good old PMA, positive mental attitude about these books. Just because I didn't like this issue doesn't mean the next issue I'm not going to like. It's Malice. Rogue has a history with this character. Betsy is in history with this character. Maybe we're going to go somewhere really fun, and that's my hope. So that has been our discussion about Excalibur issue number 19. If we have a question for you, I think it's got to be the Richter question. It's like, if you're a Richter fan and follower, do you feel like this is an authentic version of Richter? Am I coming down on it too hard? Do you agree with one of us? Do you have your own take? I'd really love to hear it, because, I would like to grow in my ability to understand these characters and my takes on these characters too. So share your comment, and we're all very happy to take a look at that. If you're looking for other X-Men issues being discussed, we had a much more cheerful discussion about Cable number 9. You can see that elsewhere on the channel. But the whole reason we get together and do this instead of suffering alone when we read an issue we do or don't like is why, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
And I have to say, I know I say this a lot, but we all aim to read comics that we like, and sometimes we read one that we don't. But you're not just paying that price of admission to stew and not like the comic. The more you talk about it, the more you write about it, the more you laugh about it with friends and rant and rave about it, you get more of your money's worth. So even if these comics take 6 minutes to read, 12 minutes to read, and you're like, gosh, I just paid $4 for 12 minutes. That's crazy. No, we pay $4 for that 12 minutes, and then the group chat that we have, and then the outline that we make, and then the conversation we get to have with you, and then getting to read all of your comments and reactions. That makes the $4 worth it more than the comic book does. Even when we love a comic book, it makes it worth it more than the $4 does. And that's why X-Men's better when it's read together. So on behalf of my...
Sometimes I learn a new word, like wintershins. I was like, wait, what?
Counterclockwise, wintershins.
Yeah, I have no idea. So I was like, what, wintershins? What does that mean?
And I'm also reconsidering reading Children of Adam issue 2 because of Tyler. So, there you go. There's like ups and downs of things.
Well, that's it for us. On behalf of Tyler, of Fariha, and of myself, thank you so much for being a part of another week of discussion of This Week in X. And here, on behalf of everybody at Crushing Crisis, we hope that you're well, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Bye.